It was 1:47 in the morning. The 39th floor of the Hartwell Tower in downtown Atlanta was almost completely dark. Almost. There was one office at the end of the hallway with a soft lamp still burning, and inside that office a woman sat in a leather chair with her eyes closed. She was not sleeping. Her name was Diane Caldwell. She was 61 years old, and in 7 hours she was going to walk into a boardroom and sign papers that would end the company she had built with her own 2 hands. Hartwell Logistics started in a single-room office back in 1998. Just Diane, a used desktop computer, and 3 small trucking clients. By 2010, she had over 400 employees. By last year, more than 2,000. Hartwell shipped freight for hospitals, grocery chains, and military bases across 31 states. But something had gone wrong. For the last 14 months, profits had been slipping, not all at once. A little here, a little there. Like water leaking out of a tank you can't quite find the hole in. The board blamed inflation. They blamed fuel costs. They blamed competition. Diane was not so sure. 3 of her biggest contracts had gone to a competitor called Still Point Freight. Each time, Still Point had bid just a little lower, just enough to win. And each time Diane had thought, that's strange. How do they keep landing exactly the right number? She had asked questions. She had ordered audits. The audits had come back clean. But still, the bleeding continued. Last Tuesday, the board had told her the news. Hartwell had 90 days of cash left. After that, the company would be insolvent. Their recommendation? File for bankruptcy. Sell what they could. End it cleanly before the lawyers got involved. The papers were sitting on Diane's desk right now. 43 pages. Yellow signature tabs marking the spots she would have to sign. But Diane wasn't ready to sign. Not yet. Because tonight she was running an experiment. A strange, desperate experiment. And it had nothing to do with paperwork. She had stayed late on purpose. She had pulled up the company's internal access dashboard on her computer screen. The screen was angled toward the door. She had dimmed the lights. And then she had leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and waited. She wanted to see what would happen when the night janitor came in. It sounds crazy. She knew it sounded crazy. But Diane had a feeling she could not prove and could not shake. Someone inside Hartwell was working against her, someone she trusted. And before she signed those papers, she wanted to see, just once, whether anyone in this building still had a working conscience, even if it was just the man with the mop. So she sat in the chair and she waited. His name was Marcus Reyes. He was 38 years old. He worked the night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week. He vacuumed carpets. He emptied trash cans. He wiped down glass walls. He restocked the bathrooms. He had been doing this job for almost 4 years. But Marcus had not always been a janitor. Before this, he had spent 12 years as a logistics auditor for a regional shipping company in Charlotte, North Carolina. He had been good at it, really good. He could look at a spreadsheet of vendor invoices and spot a problem in under 5 minutes. His old boss used to call him the human lie detector. Then his wife got sick, stage 3 breast cancer. The treatment lasted 19 months. Marcus took every shift he could to pay the medical bills. He worked through the weekends. He worked through holidays. He missed dinners. He missed bedtime stories. He missed almost everything. She passed away on a Sunday in March. After that, something inside Marcus broke. Not loudly, quietly, like a wire snapping behind a wall. He could not focus. He could not bring himself to care about vendor contracts. He stared at numbers and saw nothing. He had a daughter, Sophia. She was 6 years old at the time. Marcus realized two things very quickly. One, Sophia needed a father who came home every night, not a father who was always at the office. And two, he could not be an auditor anymore, not the kind he used to be. So he quit. He sold the house. He moved to a small 2-bedroom apartment closer to Sophia's school. He took the first stable, simple job he could find. The pay was lower. The hours were strange. But the work was clean. The work was honest. And it left him with mornings free to make his daughter pancakes before she went to school. For 4 years, that had been enough. Sophia was 10 now. She was in 5th grade. She loved space, dinosaurs, and stories about animals. Every night before Marcus left for work, she would hand him a folded note from her notebook. He would put it in his shirt pocket. And every night around midnight, on his break, he would sit in the empty cafeteria and read it. Tonight's note said, "Dad, my teacher said integrity means doing the right thing even when nobody is looking. I think you have integrity. Love, Sophia." Marcus had read the note 3 times. Then he had folded it carefully and slipped it back into his pocket. He did not know that in less than 2 hours, that note was going to matter very much. Marcus pushed his cart down the long hallway of the 39th floor. A little after 1:30 in the morning, most of the offices were dark. The cleaning crew had the place to themselves until dawn. When he reached the corner office at the end, he noticed the soft glow of a desk lamp through the frosted glass. He knocked twice, gently. No answer, so he pushed the door open and stepped inside. There she was, Diane Caldwell, the CEO, slumped in her leather chair, eyes closed, breathing slow and even. A stack of papers fanned out under her right hand. A coffee mug, cold, sitting near the keyboard. Marcus had seen her in the building before, but he had never spoken to her. He knew who she was, of course. Everyone did. Her face was on the lobby wall. Her name was on the side of every truck. But to Marcus, she lived in a different world. He cleaned. She ran things. There was no overlap. He moved quietly. He did not want to wake her. He started with the trash bin. Then he wiped down the window ledge. He was just about to grab the vacuum when his eyes drifted across the desk and landed on her computer screen. The screen was on. The brightness had been dimmed, but not turned off, and what was glowing there made Marcus stop in his tracks. It was a vendor invoice log. Marcus knew what one looked like. He had stared at thousands of them in his old life. Rows and columns of vendor names, payment dates, contract values, approval signatures. Even from 6 feet away he could read the headers. And something about the pattern was wrong. He should have looked away. He knew that. A janitor had no business reading a CEO's screen, but the part of his brain that used to live for this kind of work, the part he thought had died in a hospital waiting room 4 years ago, came alive on its own. He took 2 steps closer. The log showed a single vendor, Stillpoint Freight Solutions. The same name Marcus had on Hartwell trucks for the last year, but Stillpoint was not just a competitor anymore. According to this screen, Stillpoint was also a vendor. Hartwell was paying Stillpoint for consulting services. Big payments, spaced out evenly over many months. That alone was strange. You don't usually pay your competitor. But here was the part that made Marcus's stomach tighten. Every single payment had been authorized by the same name. Brendan Whitaker, VP of Operation. The same Brendan Whitaker, whose face Marcus saw every morning on the lobby screen. The man Diane Caldwell had handpicked. The number 2 at Hartwell. Marcus stood there for a long moment. 28 payments, spaced 13 days apart. Every single one signed off by Whitaker. Every single one going to a consultant that was actually their biggest competitor. This was not a competitor stealing contracts. This was a vice president, funneling Hartwell's own money out the door, dressed up to look like consulting fees, going straight into the pocket of the company that kept beating them on bids. Marcus understood now why Hartwell kept losing, why the audits came back clean. Audits look at vendors. They check that the paperwork lines up. They check that there's an invoice and an approval. The paperwork was perfect. That was the whole point. But underneath the paperwork, somebody was using Hartwell's own cash to fund the company that was killing them. Marcus's heart was beating hard in his chest. He thought about Sophia. He thought about the note in his pocket. And then he thought about something his wife used to say near the end, when she could still talk. "Don't be the man who looked away, Marcus. Promise me that." He had promised. So he took out his phone. He opened the camera, and very carefully he photographed the screen. He zoomed in on the vendor name. He zoomed in on the payment dates. He zoomed in on the signature line. 12 photographs, each one clear and readable. Then he put his phone back in his pocket, finished the trash, and walked out of the office without making a sound. In her chair, Diane Caldwell did not move, but her eyes opened the moment the door closed behind him. She had heard the soft click of the camera 3 times, maybe 4, and for the first time in over a year, she felt something other than dread. Marcus rode the service elevator down to the basement break room. He sat on the metal bench. He did not touch his lunch. He just stared at the photos on his phone. Now what? He could delete them, right now. Pretend he saw nothing. Go back to work. By morning, this whole thing would be somebody else's problem. He had a daughter to think about. A daughter who needed a roof over her head. A daughter who needed her one remaining parent to keep his job. If he reported this and got it wrong, he would lose everything. If he reported this and got it right, he might still lose everything. Whistleblowers do not always get medals. Sometimes they just get fired and quietly blacklisted. Marcus sat with that for a while. Then he pulled the note out of his pocket and read it again. Doing the right thing, even when nobody is looking. His daughter had written that, a 10-year-old girl, about him, because she believed it about him. Marcus made his decision, but he was not going to be reckless. He was an auditor once. Auditors do not act on a hunch. They verify. They double-check. They build a record. He pulled up Hartwell's website on his phone. He scrolled to the bottom. There was a link there, Ethics Hotline. Anonymous reporting available. He clicked it. He filled out the form carefully. He attached 3 of the clearest photos. He wrote a short factual description of what the images showed. He did not include his name. He did not say where he worked or what his job was. He hit submit. He waited for a confirmation page. The page said his report had been received and would be reviewed within 14 business days. 14 days. Marcus closed his eyes. He knew Diane was going to sign those bankruptcy papers in less than 7 hours. The ethics hotline was useless. By the time anyone read his report, the company would be gone. He needed another way. Marcus scrolled through his phone contacts. There was one name he had not called in almost 5 years, a name he was not even sure was still active. Linda Park. Linda had been his manager back in Charlotte. She had been the one who promoted him to senior auditor. She had been the one who came to his wife's funeral. She had been the one who hugged him in the parking lot afterward and told him to call if he ever needed anything. He had never called. It was 3:14 in the morning. Marcus pressed the call button. She picked up on the 5th ring. Her voice was thick with sleep. Marcus, Marcus, is that you? Is everything okay? Is Sophia okay? Marcus told her Sophia was fine. Then he told her the rest. Not all of it, just enough. He said he was working as a janitor now. He said he had seen something he wasn't supposed to see. He said he had photos. I asked her if she would look at them and tell him whether he was crazy. Linda was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Send them." Marcus sent the photos. 11 minutes later, his phone rang. Linda's voice was different now, wide awake, sharp. "Marcus, listen to me carefully. This is real. This is a vendor kickback scheme, a textbook one, the kind we used to teach trainees about. Whoever set this up knew exactly what they were doing. The amounts are just under the threshold for board review. The vendor name is just generic enough to slide past a basic audit. This is not a mistake. This is theft, and it has been going on for at least 11 months. Marcus asked her what he should do. Linda thought for a long moment. Then she said, "You have two choices. You can go to the police. They will take a long time, and they may or may not act. Or you can take this directly to the person at the top, the CEO, the one who has the most to lose. If she's clean, she will move fast. If she's part of it, she will bury you. You have to decide who she is." Marcus thought about Diane Caldwell, about the way she had been slumped in her chair, surrounded by bankruptcy papers, about the fact that she clearly had no idea what was happening inside her own company. "She's clean," he said. Linda said, "Then walk in there at the start of business and hand it to her. Don't email it. Don't call. Walk in. Look her in the eye. Hand her the photos. Tell her where you saw the original. Then leave. Let her do the rest." Marcus thanked her. She said, "Marcus, one more thing." "Yes?" "You're back." She hung up. Marcus sat in the break room for a long time after that. Marcus finished his shift at 6 in the morning. He went home. He made Sophia pancakes, the way he always did. He kissed her on the forehead and walked her to the school bus. Then, instead of going to bed, he changed into the only collared shirt he owned, a blue one, slightly faded. He walked back to the Hartwell Tower. He took the elevator to the 39th floor. The receptionist on Diane's floor looked up when he walked in. She did not recognize him out of his uniform. She asked who he was here to see. Marcus said, "Diane Caldwell. It's about the company. It's important, and it can't wait." The receptionist hesitated. She picked up the phone. She had a quiet conversation. Then she nodded toward a small chair by the wall and told Marcus to sit. He sat. 40 minutes passed. He watched men in expensive suits walk in and out of the office. He recognized one of them, Brendan Whitaker, tall, silver-haired, very tan, the kind of man who walked into rooms like he owned them. Whitaker glanced at Marcus once. He did not seem to recognize him. Then he disappeared into Diane's office. Marcus's hands were sweating. A few minutes later, Whitaker came out. He was talking on his phone. He laughed at something. He walked past Marcus without looking at him. The elevator doors closed behind him. The receptionist stood up. "Mr. Reyes, Miss Caldwell will see you now." Marcus walked into the office. Diane was sitting behind her desk. She looked tired but composed. The bankruptcy papers were still in front of her. Her pen was on top of them. She gestured to the chair across from her. Marcus sat down. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Diane said, "I know who you are. You cleaned my office last night." Marcus felt his stomach drop. He did not know what to say. She held up a hand. "It's all right, I was awake." His mouth opened. He closed it again. Diane's voice was very quiet. "I need you to tell me what you saw on my screen, in your own words. Don't leave anything out." So Marcus told her. He told her about the vendor log. He told her about Stillpoint. He told her about the 28 payments. He told her about Brendan Whitaker's name on every approval. He told her he had photographed the screen. He told her he had called an old colleague who had confirmed it was a kickback scheme. He set the photos on her desk. Diane looked at them. She looked at them for a long time. Then she said, "Mr. Reyes, may I ask you a question?" He nodded. "Why did you do this? You could have walked away. Most people would have." Marcus thought about how to answer. He took the note out of his pocket. He set it next to the photos. He did not say anything. Diane unfolded the note. She read it. She read it twice. Then she reached up, very slowly, and pressed the heel of her hand against her eyes, just for a second. When she lowered her hand, her face was steady again, but Marcus could see that something inside her had moved. She picked up her phone. She pressed a button. She said, "Cancel the 9 o'clock board meeting. Move it to 4 this afternoon, and get me the head of internal audit now." She hung up. She looked at Marcus. "You can go back to your day, Mr. Reyes. Thank you. I'll take it from here." Marcus stood up. At the door he paused. "Ma'am," he said, "what are you going to do?" Diane smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "I'm going to do what someone should have done a long time ago," she said. "I'm going to ask the right questions." The afternoon board meeting started at 4. 9 board members sat around the long oak table. Brendan Whitaker was there too. He looked relaxed. He had no idea what was coming. Diane walked in last. She did not have the bankruptcy papers with her. Instead, she had a thin folder. Inside the folder were the 12 photographs Marcus had taken, along with a printout of Hartwell's vendor payment history for the last 14 months. Earlier that day, she had asked the head of internal audit to pull every single Stillpoint transaction from the company's accounting system and verify it against the contracts on file. The numbers matched the photos exactly. There was no contract for any of those payments. Stillpoint had performed no consulting work. The consulting services line item was empty. There was no scope of work. There was no deliverable. There were just 28 wire transfers, every one of them signed off by the same person. $3.1 million out the door, to the company that kept beating them on bids. Diane sat down. She opened the folder. She passed copies around the table. She did not yell. She did not accuse. She just spoke quietly. "I would like to ask Brendan to walk us through these payments," she said. "Specifically, the consulting work that Stillpoint performed for Hartwell over the last 14 months. I'd like to see the deliverables. I'd like to see the contracts. I'd like to know what we paid them $3 million for." The room went very still. Brendan Whitaker was a smart man. He had to know, in that moment, that whatever he said next was going to matter for the rest of his life. He started with a smile. He said it must be some kind of accounting error. He said he had signed off on a lot of things and could not remember every detail. He said Diane should not be making accusations in front of the board without speaking to him first. Diane just listened. When he finished, she said, "Brendan, I'm not making any accusations. I'm asking you to produce the contracts. You are the VP of Operations. You signed each of these payments. You should have the documentation. Please bring it to this room within the next 48 hours, or we will have to assume there is none." Brendan's smile faded. He said something about needing to consult his own lawyer. Diane said, "That is your right. In the meantime, I am placing you on administrative leave, effective immediately. The board will vote on next steps once we have completed an external forensic audit. You may keep your office key for now. You may not access the financial systems. Security will escort you out." Brendan stood up. His face had gone pale. He looked around the table for support. Nobody met his eyes. He walked out. After the door closed, the board chair, an older woman named Patricia Halloran, turned to Diane. "How did you find out?" she asked. Diane was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Someone in this building who I had never spoken to before this morning. Someone whose name I should have learned a long time ago. He saw what the rest of us missed. The forensic audit took 6 weeks. It confirmed everything. Brendan Whitaker had been receiving payments from Stillpoint Freight Solutions through a private consulting LLC he had set up in his sister-in-law's name. The arrangement was simple. He would tip Stillpoint off about Hartwell's bid amounts. He would also approve fake consulting payments from Hartwell to Stillpoint. Stillpoint would then route a portion of those payments back to Brendan's LLC. It was a closed loop. Diane's company was paying its competitor to beat itself. Brendan resigned before the board could fire him. Hartwell filed a civil suit. Stillpoint settled out of court for an undisclosed amount that, according to people who saw the paperwork, was very large. Brendan eventually pled guilty to wire fraud. He was sentenced to 32 months in federal prison. Hartwell did not file for bankruptcy. The recovered funds, combined with 2 new contracts Diane personally renegotiated, gave the company enough runway to stabilize. Within 9 months, Hartwell was profitable again. But the part of the story that mattered most was not the money. It was what happened in the weeks after Brendan walked out. Diane called every department head into her office, one at a time. She did not give speeches. She just asked questions. She asked them what they were seeing on the floor. She asked them what they were afraid to say. She asked them which employees they thought she should know by name. She started eating lunch in the cafeteria instead of her office. She started learning the names of the security guards, the drivers, the dispatchers, the cleaning crew. She did this not as a publicity stunt. She did this because she had spent 26 years running a company without realizing that most of the people inside her own building were invisible to her, and she had almost lost everything because of it. 3 weeks after the boardroom meeting, Diane went down to the basement. She found Marcus restocking cleaning supplies on a metal shelf. He turned around when he heard her. He looked surprised to see her there. "Mr. Reyes," she said, "do you have a minute?" He nodded. She told him she wanted to offer him a job. She told him Hartwell was creating a new internal team. A small one, at first, 3 people. The team would be responsible for reviewing vendor contracts, flagging unusual payment patterns, and answering directly to the CEO and the board chair. She wanted Marcus to lead it. The salary she offered him was almost 6 times what he was making as a janitor. Marcus did not answer right away. He looked at the shelf of cleaning supplies. He looked at his hands. He looked at the floor. Then he said, "Mrs. Caldwell, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why me? You could hire someone with a master's degree. You could hire someone from a Big 4 firm. Why someone like me?" Diane thought about her answer. "Because I have spent my entire career hiring people with the right credentials," she said, "and it almost destroyed my company. The credentials told me they were smart. They did not tell me whether they were honest. You showed me which one matters more. So when I tell you I want you for this job, Mr. Reyes, I am not doing you a favor. I am trying to fix the mistake I have been making for 26 years. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, "I need to talk to my daughter first." Diane smiled. Take all the time you need. That night, Marcus told Sophia about the offer. She listened carefully. She was 11 now. She was the kind of kid who took things seriously when adults gave her real information. When he finished, she asked one question. Will you still be home at night, Dad? Every night, he said. Then say yes. So he did. A year went by. Hartwell Logistics held its annual all-hands meeting in the auditorium on the ground floor. Almost every employee came. The drivers came in from the depots. The dispatchers came from the regional offices. The cleaning crew sat in the back rows. Diane walked up to the microphone. She did not have notes. She talked about the year. She talked about the recovery. She thanked the people who had stayed when things looked bad. And then she said something that surprised the room. A year ago, I was sitting in my office at 2 a.m, getting ready to give up. I had decided that the company was finished. I had a stack of bankruptcy papers on my desk, and I was going to sign them in 7 hours. The room got very quiet. I did not give up because I had a brilliant strategy. I did not give up because the board talked me out of it. I did not give up because I found some clever solution in a business book. I did not give up because of a man who at that moment was technically my janitor. He saw something on my computer screen that he was not supposed to see, and instead of looking away, he did something that all of the highly paid executives sitting around me had failed to do for over a year. He told the truth. She paused. I want to say something to every person in this room, especially the people who feel invisible, the people who do their jobs at night, the people who clean the offices, drive the trucks, carry the boxes, answer the phones, people I used to walk past without seeing. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. You are not invisible. You are not background. You see things the rest of us miss. You know things the rest of us do not. And when you choose to speak up, you can save companies. You can save lives. You can save people like me from making the worst mistakes of our careers. I spent 26 years thinking that leadership meant being the smartest person in the room. I was wrong. Leadership means being the person who notices everyone else in the room, especially the people you were trained not to see. I owe my company to a man who used to clean my floor, and I am not ashamed of that. I am grateful for it every single day. The room was completely silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone did. In the 4th row, Marcus Reyes sat in a plain grey suit. He did not stand, he did not wave. He just sat there, hands resting on his knees, watching the woman at the podium. In the seat next to him, Sophia, 11 years old, in her best dress, leaned over and whispered something in his ear. Marcus smiled. He reached into the inside pocket of his suit jacket. He pulled out a small folded piece of notebook paper. The edges were soft from being unfolded and refolded so many times. The ink was a little smudged. He had carried it with him every single day for over a year. He opened it. He read it one more time. Dad, my teacher said integrity means doing the right thing even when nobody is looking. I think you have integrity. Love, Sophia. He folded it carefully. He put it back in his pocket. Then he reached over and took his daughter's hand. There are people in your life right now who you walk past every day. The cashier at the grocery store, the man who collects your trash, the woman who cleans your office at night, the person who fixes your car. You do not know their names. You do not know their stories. You do not know what they used to be, or what they lost, or what they carry in their pockets. But every single one of them is a full human being, with a history, with a mind, with eyes that see things you might miss. The people we treat as invisible are not actually invisible. We just stop looking. Diane Caldwell almost lost a company she had spent her entire adult life building. Not because she was not smart enough, not because she was not strong enough, but because she had stopped seeing the people around her. A man with a mop saved her, because she happened, on one strange and desperate night, to remember he was there. The lesson is simple, but it is hard. Look at the people around you. Really look. Learn their names. Ask them how they are. Treat them like they matter. Because they do matter, every one of them. You never know which one of them is carrying the answer to a question you have been afraid to ask. You never know which one of them, given the chance, will save your life.